NAACP leader just stunned every liberal in America, admits Trump is absolutely right. Common sense has slowly started to prevail. Esther Lee, who is currently one of the main leaders in the racist organization known as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People or NAACP, has finally broken her silence and is speaking out against the removal of Confederate statues. She stated the obvious by saying that she is against their removal because they are a part of our history. She went on to call the removal of the statues a senseless act, and also called the death of the women protester and the two peace officers who died in the helicopter crash last weekend something that didn't need to happen. That just because someone in their mind decides the status should be taken down doesn't mean they should be. Well said. All this means she concurs with President Donald Trump's sentiments on the matter. This whole awful episode, which is reminiscent of 20th century Soviet Union and ISIS, has boiled over to the point that on Wednesday, authorities in Chicago found a statue of Abraham Lincoln, or 16th president and the very man who ended slavery, badly burned. These are indeed sad times. Human Events reports. Top 10 examples of NAACP racism. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, condemned the Tea Party movement last month for alleged bigotry within its ranks. The mainstream always seems extreme to extremists. As the following top 10 list demonstrates, the NAACP, a hotbed of political hotheads in recent years, isn't the best organization to be lecturing others about extremism. 10. In March 2008, ABC News revealed that Barack Obama's pastor had preached that African Americans should sing not "God Bless America, God Damn America," that 9/11 proved that America's chickens are coming home to roost, and that the U.S. government invented AIDS. The following month, on April 28, 2008, the NAACP's Detroit chapter honored the Reverend Jeremiah Wright as a keynote speaker at a massive dinner. 9. In 2000, the NAACP filed an amicus curiae brief on behalf of Mumia Abu-Jamal, the former Black Panther who murdered a white police officer in 1981. "I shot the mother, and I hope the mother, dies," 3 witnesses heard a wounded Abu-Jamal exclaim in a Philadelphia hospital. 8. The rhetoric of Julian Bond, chairman of the NAACP from 1998 to 2000, exemplifies the organization's migration from the mainstream to the extreme. In his words, "Republicans are the white people's party and a crazy swarm of right-wing locusts. America morphs into a place where white supremacy is everywhere, and the George W. Bush administration exemplifies a regime whose devotion to the Confederacy is nearly canine in its uncritical affection." 7. On July 1, 1934, W.E.B. Du Bois resigned from the organization he helped found after an ugly feud with the NAACP's more moderate leaders, crudely accusing Walter White, an African American, of being white. The previous year, Du Bois called for a plan that will involve increased segregation and perhaps migration for African Americans. The thinking colored people of the United States must stop being stampeded by the word segregation, Du Bois insisted in the January 1934 issue of the Crises, adding 4 months later, "I fight segregation with segregation." The parting of ways saved the NAACP further embarrassment. Their founder made an ill-advised trip to Nazi Germany in 1936 that resulted in, among other lamentable items, the German case against Jews, an apologia in which Du Bois excused German anti-Semitism as a reason prejudice based on economic fear. 6. For many, April 8, 1994 was the day the NAACP jumped the shark. The group invited a rogues gallery of crackpots, extremists, and racists to a secret meeting, dubbed, "Take a Deep Breath," a deliberate mechanism for communication and interrelations between representative leaders of the progressive community and the NAACP within the inclusive mission of the Chavez administration and the African-centered self-determined program thrust of the new NAACP. Attendees included black supremacist Leonard Jeffers, famous for his Sun People, Ice People dichotomy to explain the differences between blacks and whites, Maulana Karenga, the originator of Kwanzaa, who went to prison for torturing 2 women, and French presidential candidate Lenore Fulani. 5. Louis Farrakhan teaches that an evil scientist named Jacob created white people, claims to have been abducted in a UFO, and has made a mountain of anti-Semitic utterances. So it shocked many when the NAACP invited the Nation of Islam Grand Panjandrum to participate in a leadership summit on June 12 to 14, 1997. 4. When Al Gore selected Joe Lieberman as his running mate in 2000, Dallas NAACP chapter head Lee Algorn responded with alarm that a Jewish American had been selected on a national ticket. "I'm concerned about, any kind of Jewish candidate, and I'm concerned about the Democratic Party," Alcorn said on a radio program. "And if we get a Jew person, then what I'm wondering is, what is this movement for, African Americans," the NAACP leader maintained, "need to be suspicious of any kind of partnerships between the Jews at that kind of level because we know that their interest primarily has to do with, money and these kind of things." 3. The Obama administration bounced Van Jones out of its administration after the media learned he had led a communist organization, signed a petition claiming that the Bush administration may indeed have deliberately allowed 9/11 to happen, and organized a vigil on September 12, 2001 memorializing the victims of U.S. imperialism. Though Jones was ultimately too extreme for the U.S. president, he was just right for the NAACP's president. On February 26, 2010, the NAACP's Image Awards bestowed a President's Award upon Van Jones. 2. In the 1970s, a judge sentenced Benjamin Chavez to prison for his role in the firebombing a white-owned grocery store in a black part of Wilmington, North Carolina. A judge overturned his conviction on a technicality in 1980. With Chavez's makeover so complete that the NAACP elected him chairman on April 9, 1993. A few months later, Chavez demanded the inclusion of the Nation of Islam in a 30th anniversary celebration of the March on Washington. He explained, "I want everybody here to know that the NAACP is standing with the Nation of Islam." Angela Davis, Sister Sulja, and Leonard Jeffers were among the extremists Chavez extended an olive branch to during his short tenure as NAACP leader. Chavez, a former Christian minister, has joined the Nation of Islam since his firing from the NAACP. 1. 10 years after the NAACP and W.E.B. Du Bois originally parted company in 1934, the civil rights organization welcomed him back. Whereas Du Bois's peculiar racial views led to the first parting, his support for communism led to the final parting in 1948. Du Bois subsequently eulogized Stalin as a great and courageous man that had been attacked and slandered as few men of power have been, likened North Korean communists to the American patriots of 1776, accepted a Lenin Peace Prize, was feted with the nation holiday in Maoist China, joined the Communist Party USA, renounced his American citizenship, and emigrated to Kwame Ghana. Rather than unnamed racists operating on the peripheries, or 6 degrees of separation logic that lamely attempts to project Axis extremism upon Y, the above examples involve the NAACP's official acts and duly elected leaders. In a few cases, such as with Lee Alcorn and W.E.B. Du Bois, the NAACP repudiated the extremism and severed ties. In each instance, the NAACP's leadership, and not yahoos acting in its name, brought shame upon the organization. For most of its history, the NAACP has served as a force of political moderation and sought the laudable goal of an integrated society where people of color could reach their fullest human potential unhampered by discrimination. For most of its recent history, the NAACP has self-righteously designated itself the arbiter of who is and who is not racist, even as it sponsors black racists. What we take issue with is the Tea Party's continued tolerance for bigotry and bigoted statements, NAACP CEO Ben Jealous remarked upon his group's anti-Tea Party resolution. The time has come for them to accept the responsibility that comes with influence and make clear there is no place for racism and anti-Semitism, homophobia and other forms of bigotry in their movement. Isn't it time for the NAACP to accept responsibility for its own extremism? Although most black leaders in this great nation of ours rejoice in the fact that they get money and power by promoting racism where there is none, they forget one simple fact. There are no successful black nations in this world. In fact, the U.S. is the only nation on earth where blacks can become anything they want to be. If they don't kill each other, that is. They have taken over our sports and entertainment. We even just had our first black president, and still, that's not good enough for their leaders. Yes, they have earned all that, but in most other nations they aren't even allowed to earn it. But again, there is no money for their leaders if they admit things here in the US aren't as bad as they claim they are. Please share if you agree black Americans need new leaders. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe Breaking News 365 channel. Goodbye and see you again.